America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
2016, year of the snake. It's time for a change in the White House, y'all. Bring it.
Y'all, welcome on in. Click the share button. We have a special guest tonight. I'm excited on a very important topic. We've talked about this topic so much, you guys, so I'm excited to have somebody doing something about it. We're going to talk to him. So click the share button. Let folks know. You say, hey, Kevin, how are you? America. Nick, how are you? Good to see y'all. Let me let Chris know we're live. There we go. There's our Monk, and I really want to tell him. Hello, everybody. Chris McDonald, the Monk, representing Trump Talk US in the room, taking good care of us. There's Helena. Good to see you. Click the share button, folks. I certainly want to. This is going to be a good conversation, and I'm excited to talk to our guest tonight. So we got to keep pushing. We got to keep pushing forward. And this is, we'll find out. We'll find out, you guys. Keep the show, but let folks over here. Let folks know. Hello, Pamela. Good to see you. Dory, good to see you. Thanks for sharing, you guys. Appreciate you guys doing that, you know. It's just you and me and against Zuck in the world. So, didn't do it without you. Yes, awesome. Thank you for sharing that link, Chris. Chris has just put up the link to share for Kyle Rittenhouse's legal fund. You are interested in helping out Kyle Rittenhouse, which I don't know why you wouldn't be interested in helping out Kyle Rittenhouse. Such a great young man, and frankly, I think he's a hero. And I think we're gonna find out some stuff like ambush. Anyway, we'll talk about it as we go forward. But yeah, that is the link. This is the official link. Fightback.law. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. You're watching the one and only Trump Talk US live in DC with Suzzanne Monk. I am Suzzanne Monk. We're 8 minutes away from our nation's beautiful capital. We're 15 minutes away from the beautiful White House, where unfortunately we have some protesters being a little bit rowdy. That we had a lot of arrests here in DC over the weekend, and certainly well deserved, because if you come to this city and you try to storm the White House and you try to get past Secret Service and you try to cause ruckus, you will get arrested. Now, you might still get close to senators because the mayor is not letting police do their job here effectively. So it's unfortunate, but this is the situation. You know, we live in a world where a lot of law enforcement are not able to do their jobs, and because of that, we have a lot of problems, including the problems on the southern border with human trafficking. And as I have talked about, the massive amount of trafficking that goes on with fentanyl, carfentanil, dangerous drugs, weaponized drugs. I'm really excited to have our guest here tonight, who is Jim. I'm going to pull him up here on camera. Let's see. There's Jim. Jim, wave to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, let me see. I'm gonna mute one of these microphones.
I'm honored to be here. Can you hear me?
There we go. I think yes. I think that's good. We had a little feedback. Now we're great. Everyone, Jim Rauh is the head of Families Against Fentanyl. Am I getting that correct?
That's correct.
Wonderful.
And we're trying to have fentanyl designated a weapon of mass destruction as a tool to give the government the power to interdict the supply and actually stop it. So instead of us continually fighting a defensive strategy, running around, responding to where it shows up next, trying to, figure out where these guys are, how they're going to get it across next, what new trick they're going to pull out of their sleeves. We're going to be able to go after them, find out where it is, and shut down their manufacturing and distribution.
Well, Jim, I'm excited. I'm excited to have you on the show. Anyone who's watched this show for any significant period of time knows that I have talked about this issue over and over and over again. And I would get my little notepad and I would show people the tiny little dot of fentanyl. We do the little exercise, you'd show the tiny little dot of fentanyl that could kill you. And I have been calling for designating fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, in particular because of understanding a lot of fentanyl, particularly on the market today, comes from the Chinese. Am I mistaken in saying that?
It's coming from the Chinese. It's been coming from the Chinese. And if they're not shipping it in its completed form, they're shipping as precursors to bad actors who are combining non-toxic precursors together to make the fentanyl in their locations and then transporting it on. The Chinese government's been well aware of this activity and has been at least tacitly complicit by turning a blind eye. That's at the very least, like having a policeman who's watching, standing on the corner watching people get murdered or mugged or done every day, and they're getting their cut, and they're just letting it keep happening. That's at the very least.
So like Berkeley or Portland. Yeah. Unfortunately. Well, and you're absolutely right. They are working with drug cartels. The cartels in Mexico have been doing more production, but in part because they are able to get these components shipped out. Now, what you're calling for is to have it designated as a weapon of mass destruction, meaning you're going to be able to go after the Chinese sources, the cartel sources directly. Will that change what agency it goes through? Will the federal government be able to do that? How does that change the law and what they can do?
The National Security Council will convene, and they'll be able to distribute the powers to the proper agencies. The FBI will take over probably domestic intelligence for anything that may be moving here as far as terrorism and such. The military can go to foreign locations, search and seize vessels at sea, do all kinds of proactive, very powerful things to seek and destroy large caches of this material that represent, they've seized enough materials in single shipments that could kill everyone on the planet.
Right.
The 51,000 pounds that they found off the coast of Mexico, I think, was mostly found by our Navy, and they informed the Mexican Navy to seize that. But when you look at 51,000 pounds of fentanyl, even if that was dumped into the ocean, it would be an environmental disaster beyond our ability to cope with. But that represents enough to kill just about everybody I'm pretty certain it's enough to kill everybody on the planet.
And we're not crazy. It's not just some imagination that folks are making up. This is certainly something that can be dropped out of planes, put into water, as you suggested, put into the air system, of a building, a specific building. Already weaponizable.
According to Andy Weber, who worked at the Department of Defense and was working in weapons of mass destruction, it bridges or eliminates the capability gap. So you have a material that's available to the general public that is unbelievably toxic, and it's I don't want to make it so obvious that I'm stoking the possibilities, but as things are going forward, I feel as if I'm in a science fiction movie almost,
Right.
and this thing just keeps rolling forward, and I'm watching this scenario continually get worse and worse and worse. And it's sowing this poison is sowing social unrest. It's attacking very social economic people. It's particularly hard up right now in the Black community in the Chicago area, from what I understand. 50% of the fentanyl deaths are in the Black community, while they make up, I think, only about 24% of the population. And it's really moved to all segments of society, and there's nobody that doesn't know somebody that's been affected.
Yeah, and it's being unfortunately mixed with a variety of other illegal street drugs. Obviously, heroin being the most obvious, but certainly you're seeing people unable to, people who might have been drug addicts now overdosing because they're coming in contact with fentanyl, which is a much stronger drug, much more dangerous and much more deadly. Our law enforcement are actually having to change protocol, EMTs, etc., now carrying Narcan, now carrying the medication for an overdose of fentanyl with them at all times, because just being exposed to a baggie that had this in the vehicle while searching the vehicle can put our law enforcement officers at risk.
I have a video of course, the Bartlesville, Oklahoma police officer passing out, and this material is being mixed into every type of drug. It's no longer just affecting what would be considered the regular opioid addict. It's killing people of all walks of life and every type of recreational drug. I don't care if you think you're going to snort a line of Coke and drink some whiskey and play some cards with your pals, and stay up all night and have fun at the nightclub. I certainly know there was enough of that done in the 80s. All the way through to people who are taking pills for Xanax, or thinking they're going to get one of these study drugs, Adderall, or anything else. And it's killing every age, every social class, everybody. And it's that ripple effect of grief and destruction is tearing the hearts out of America. And it's everyone. It's everyone I run into, knows somebody, has somebody. And it goes on year after year after year after year. And the devastation keeps building up. And
it's important for you. It's important to note that, this is a drug that people can die from an overdose very quickly. In fact, immediately. So these aren't folks who are drug addicts, or, some are drug addicts, but some are just college kids who, try Xanax or borrow a pill from a friend. Some of them are, individuals who think they're just going to smoke. Unfortunately, and I hate to say this, think they're just going to smoke marijuana. There have been cases where they have soaked even marijuana in fentanyl.
Yes, there have. I didn't believe it, and then I trolled the web for the cases of fentanyl to see what the trends are, and I've found people who have been rendered unconscious from smoking fentanyl in their marijuana. And as you said, it's being distributed everywhere. There was a news article I found of a lunchbox with Hello Kitty candies filled with fentanyl in them. I mean, the depravity of the different things that I've seen involving this material is mind-boggling.
We need to have grave concerns. Today is International Overdose Awareness Day, and I think that's a great day to have you on the show.
One of the most wonderful things about this that's come about is I think that they're going to distribute 1 million Narcan nasal spray units this year.
Right.
And think of all those lives that are being saved. But think, in spite of that, it's still growing at over 50% this year, and it doesn't seem to be any end in sight. I'm really concerned about the availability of this and the ability for it to permeate all these different forms of all these different types of society.
And that becomes very dangerous because certainly as families, we've had children, obviously children who live in cities, we always are very careful. Sometimes there's needles, sometimes there's dangerous things there on the street. These things are not deadly, literally can become deadly for a child. You don't know what your college kid is going to get in contact with. If we have law enforcement officers who are afraid of even coming in contact with the drug, just in searches, certainly individuals in the public could have the same problem. So this is a problem that could affect anybody. It's certainly very dangerous. It could easily escalate to even a more dangerous situation than we've seen so far. Where is the situation right now? Why is it legal? And how do we is it necessary medically? What are your thoughts on that? I say no.
I think it's excellent medically.
Mm-hmm.
As my mother was dying, I applied fentanyl patches on her. They have control release. It really helped her at the end of her life. I think that there's absolutely no reason why this designation would stop its medical use. It would certainly put some teeth into the distribution where it wouldn't be dispersed the way that the pharmaceutical companies did so haphazardly and with just reckless disregard. But I think that there are tons of industrial chemicals that are on the weapons of mass destruction list: phosgene gas, chlorine gas, both used in the production of PVC and polycarbonate, and there's millions of different poisonous chemicals made into various pharmaceuticals. And of course, there's radiological materials in every hospital, that are on the weapons of mass destruction list. This just gives us, a strength that gives us legal rights to protect ourselves. And that's our government's number one job, is to protect its citizenry. And we've been getting whittled away in the most horrific way because it's killing our children in front of our eyes. And when we're fighting this stigma of the shame and the social disrespect of having an addict, and why aren't you getting better, and you're culpable in your own demise, and you're sick, and the people don't generally get it until it's their friend or their family. And now it's gotten to the point where it's everybody knows someone, and the stigma is dying down because it's not just the junkie on the street anymore. It's your cousin, your sister, your brother, your parent, someone you love. And when you lose them after fighting this long and see them get better and get worse and everything else to something that just wipes them out, or if they're just totally innocent, they're just a kid experimenting, getting high, which every creative kid is tempted to try to get high on something sometime. I don't care if it's drinking booze or doing something. They've got another friend that's in their ear saying, "Hey, come on, let's go get a buzz." And unfortunately, that buzz ends up in a really horrible situation for their family and their friends and themselves.
Well, can you tell Jim? Can you tell folks a little bit about what inspired you to start this organization? How long you've had the organization, and give us a little bit of the background.
I've had the organization now for just a little over a year, and I was inspired to do this when I tried to figure out a way to stop this from happening to friends and family. The initiation of it was the Trump administration brought a criminal lawsuit against the Zhang drug trafficking organization in China. And they put a team together that went over to China and put on its indictment, put on the legal case completely against the Zhang drug trafficking organization, not only under our laws, but under Chinese laws, especially, and they nailed them on money laundering. And once again, the Chinese government simply let them walk. they would not extradite them. The Zangs, of course, went on to produce additional drugs, and it just shows the Chinese, at least tacit complicity. As I said, I think they're fully, complicit in this. I think it's part of their Cold War, that's semi-asymmetric warfare of this type. Probably ties into the COVID and their infection rate or something. Both of these seem strange to come about at the same time, and their synergistic effect on each other is just horrible.
Well, and that's one of the things that's unique about fentanyl compared to the drug war prior. Obviously, we've been fighting heroin, we've been fighting cocaine, we've been fighting many difficult drugs throughout human history. What I've found is in studying how distribution is going, people are always saying, why would the drug cartels produce a drug that kills their customers? That doesn't seem to make any sense. But the drug is actually so much cheaper to produce, so much easier to produce and distribute. It actually financially makes sense to just keep producing and finding more people to sell it to, even if it is killing off a percentage of your customer base. And it is a highly dangerous drug because of that ease and cost efficiency that the drug cartels have in producing it and distributing it.
It's not just that; it's extremely addictive. You don't get the regular time span of enjoying your drug over a period of time. This stuff immediately wipes out your resistance to it, and your amygdala response goes off right away, and you have no way of suppressing that. That's why they're pumping in all these different drugs, because they know they're going to create another huge crop of addicts by subjecting them to this.
Right.
And once they're hooked, then they start to participate in social activities that are detrimental to themselves and their surroundings, criminal activities, all types of different things, because they can't function socially anymore in a way that they can cope with their compulsions.
Well, and that's unfortunately some people get into the addiction cycle from a medical use, an injury, some sort of pain medication need that turns into a pain medication addiction, that turns into now committing criminal acts to get that pain medication. And these are law-abiding individuals who just, they had an accident at work. They were in a car wreck.
So many of
it can happen to anybody.
So many of them, it's harder to get Suboxone and Tramadol than it is to get fentanyl. You can get fentanyl easier, cheaper, immediately, and you'll be out there begging for a Suboxone pill or trying to get, they call them Suboxys or just they're all trying to get them. Now, they're the guys that have started this first step program that you're allowed to walk right into emergency room and get help or get a Suboxone or get a Tramadol. But that's pretty revolutionary. I haven't seen, for the most part, when you're addicted, and I've taken my son, my wife's taken my son to the doctor, they'd say, bring him back when he's not an addict. We can't help him. Right. There's nothing we can do for this guy. He's an addict, and you might as well just. And then when we take him to go see the doctor to get his Tramadol or a Suboxone, they treated him terribly, just terribly.
Right.
And the whole thing just became difficult, and they made it difficult all along the way.
And obviously difficulty is not what you need in that situation. When you're in recovery, when you're trying to, take back a part of your life, take back control of yourself over the drug, you certainly don't need people adding pressure, and certainly not the people who are supposed to help you.
It's the same for all of the addicts. I don't care if it's alcohol or if it's gambling addiction or if it's certain forms of obesity. They all function in the brain somewhat the same way, and they all cause a certain type of response by your amygdala in your brain and the various brain chemistries that work that way. And it takes a long time to get the brain retrained back into a position where it's at peace with itself. I mean, you can say no all day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. But one of these days, you hit a crack, and then the next thing you know, you let yourself go, and you did it. And eat your heart out, but damn it, it's done.
Yeah. Well, and that's something, when you fall off the wagon and you go and drink a beer, you go have a few whiskeys, you go home, you pass out. But when you fall off the wagon as a fentanyl addict, you often end up overdosed. And
Yes.
we've seen many individuals that relapse becomes far more deadly as a fentanyl addict because of the dangers of even just a small amount can be so deadly. And when you've been clean for a little while, your tolerance goes down. You take that amount you're used to, that amount is actually deadly to you now.
That's absolutely the truth. And the fentanyl comes in so many different strengths. You can get fentanyl, acrylfentanyl, acetylfentanyl, carafentanyl, and they just get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And you don't know which one you're getting. And the next thing you know, you're gone. And unfortunately, I'm told that the addicts, oh man, this guy, the strong stuff's over here, or I can cope with it. Or they'll go with somebody else, because it gets to the point where when they're getting high, they're not getting high. They're getting normal. They're getting so they feel okay. They can function. They can work or whatever. And that additional amount that it takes to get them that feeling of euphoria is usually somewhere close to killing them. Yeah. And they walk that tightrope, to try and get that one last, high or that feeling, and it takes them over the edge.
Well, and it certainly makes it so important to control fentanyl as much as we can from a distribution level, because as you know, individuals, we as a society have been fighting addiction and finding treatments for addiction and ways to help people who have problems with addiction. And I'm sure we will continue to find new ways, and they'll invent, new spa systems, or maybe, addiction aiding robots in the future. I don't know. We'll continue. I feel as human beings, we've had this for a while. We'll continue to have that for a while. But certainly being able to control something as dangerous, as quickly and as deadly as fentanyl it is going to be a huge step in preventing death. I mean, obviously, we want people not to be addicts, but most importantly, we want people to live to have a chance to not to become addicts.
Absolutely. And, this is something that's being done on purpose. This isn't being spread inadvertently by, casual contact or anything. This is determined, hard on us, pure rotten evil. And our ability is there to stop it. We don't have to have our generations living with it. We don't have to tolerate this.
Right.
And I think it's time that we understand that and say, listen, we have the ability to rid ourselves of this scourge. And we can do it before it falls into the hands of some bad actors that are going to make life miserable for all of us. I'm afraid of it, of course, in any confined space, as you said, an airplane, et cetera. Right. And in my, I have a booklet on my website that goes through some of the scary scenarios that face us with fentanyl, and rather than elucidate on those type of
Jim, will you tell everybody what your website is, and so Chris can pull the link up here in the comments? What's the name of your what do you call your website?
FamiliesAgainstFentanyl.org.
FamiliesAgainstFentanyl.org. Chris will put that up in the comments. FamiliesAgainstFentanyl.org. We'll pull that up on the screen when Chris puts that into the comments.
Yes. So, and we have a petition that we're asking people to sign, so we can put some weight into our request that the government actually recognize this. They've been contemplating it now for over a year. Yeah. I think there's been some resistance in the military having involvement in drug interdiction. Sure. And there's been some, I think, strong resistance from Big Pharma. Right. And I think that's over. I think that their day is done, and we have.
They seem to have some bigger issues to worry about with the president there than just the fentanyl issue, Big Pharma at least. So, and I certainly know that the president has been working hard as far as border security, which is a huge component of the drug and human trafficking issue, being able to, a lot of that stuff comes across the southern border via the drug cartels and their trafficking routes through that highway of
absolutely
activity.
Absolutely. I think that this calls for stricter border control. It calls for very proactive interdiction. It calls for a real understanding. I think that anybody in the first responders group, the paramedics, the firemen, the policemen, all of them are all totally
Sure.
understand the potential threat that we're under. And I think that they would be a very strong voice in demanding this type of designation.
Well, I think this designation could, in fact, even give them more teeth in dealing with the drug cartels and dealing with the criminal activity south of the border. We kind of have our hands tied right now with on the border. We have to negotiate and deal with the Mexican government and trust them to do a lot of the policing, but certainly as a weapon of mass destruction and as something now I think could involve the military and military action, I think it frees us up a little bit to start dealing with the drug cartels in a more international fashion.
Absolutely, and I think they'll lose their flavor for this material. I think that they'll reconsider some of their activities because this material is. I just read a study where mice were given the opportunity to vaporize themselves with fentanyl. So they were giving themselves vaporized fentanyl, whether they were given pain, whether they were deprived food, whether they were shocked. They would just continually give themselves vaporized fentanyl. And there's something about gassing mice or gassing rats with fentanyl that just scares the living bejesus out of me. And the fact that they're giving it to themselves, it's almost as if it's a symbol of the danger of what this is. Gas fentanyl being delivered to unsuspecting.
Well, and when we see the unrest, even in our own country, here in Portland and Minneapolis, we see this radicalized faction of individuals who are out to burn and loot police stations. It certainly is not beyond the imagination that they would use other means.
Oh, now you're scaring me.
So, I think even that, because, when we're seeing this kind of divide in our country, these kind of things that individuals can have access to through the black market become a real risk and a real danger. And I think we need. They
are a real risk and a real danger. The way that they can be modified chemically is very, very simple, and we need to get this stuff out of here. We need to get it out of here. We need to get it out of here before something goes wrong. And then. So I think that even though we've put up with enough killing of it, the people are being wiped out, and it's just the poor addicts and the people who are somehow not able to control themselves.
Right.
For all that sadness and for all that pain and suffering, if that's still not enough, then let me scare your pants off enough to get it out of here. But just get it out of here, please, God. Please get it out of here.
Exactly. And we've said this many times before here on the show as well. So, Jim, I personally thank you for the work you're doing on this issue. I'm excited to see that you've formed an organization that is speaking out and using your own tragic experience to do something that is really very important for this country. And that is to remove not only something that is killing us slowly from within, but could be very dangerous, weaponized going forward. And your voice is one of the few I've heard speaking so clearly, and I appreciate so much that you are putting the time and effort. I know how hard running an organization is, so you're doing the good work, sir, and I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for putting me on and giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Everyone has appreciated so much your comments. We're going to share your links with the show. And in fact, for everyone who watches my show on Tuesday on the Exceptional Conservative Network, we're going to have Jim on tomorrow to talk to that audience as well. So thank you, Jim. I will be sending you the details about that later on. Okay. And awesome. We got through this all together. Wonderful, everybody. Thank you for thank Jim for being here. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic. And so, you guys, absolutely, I really appreciate having Jim here tonight to talk about this issue. This is something that we should be concerned about. And we not just, as Jim said, and I've repeated, and many of us have repeated, I've repeated on this show probably dozens of times. That's why I draw the little dots on the paper to show you how scary it really can be. This is something that can be easily weaponized, easily made dangerous, not just for individuals who are addicts, but for just any individual. Distributed into a finite air system, over a city, into a water system, in a plane. I mean, any number of things can happen and could put individuals at grave risk. So we need to continue to focus not just on the election, which is so important, obviously so important to get Donald Trump reelected, but these are the reasons we're getting, this is why we elected Donald Trump. This is why we went through all of this. This is why we're going through all of the pain now, all the madness, all the craziness. This is why, because here, I'm gonna put the www.familiesagainstfentanyl.org. I think that's the link. Someone click on that link and let me see. So I think that's the link here. Familiesagainstfentanyl.org. Somebody click on that and see if that goes to the thing. We'll see if that does it right. You never know. So, but yeah, I'm gonna leave that link out because I think that is the link, familiesagainstfentanyl.org. So thank you, Jim, for being on the show. We appreciate you coming and talking about this issue, and I think this is a great way to handle it. Certainly to designate it as a weapon of mass destruction is probably it's the way to go. It gives a lot of tools to the government. Perfect. That is the right link. It gives a lot of tools to the government to operate against this deadly killer. Now, while we're talking about crazy things, now, every one of my folks who, and I appreciate Jim, we all do this the same way when we talk about fentanyl. We don't want to give the bad guys any ideas, okay? We don't want to give the bad guys any ideas. But at the same time, you have to be appropriately afraid of what could possibly happen. And when we're seeing violence, like we've seen in DC, like we've seen in Portland, like we've seen in Kenosha now, like we've seen in Minneapolis, when we see individuals being attacked, assaulted, as we unfortunately cannot help but see happening before our very eyes. Everyone knows about the Kyle Rittenhouse situation in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Everybody knows about that. What happened? The case has now been taken by Lynn Wood and team of criminal attorney experts, great lawyers, already looking into some of the many details that we discussed on the show and many of us discussed on social media, the different bits of information, bits and pieces of information that have come out through videos. We are still trying. We still have questions. I still have questions. Who fired the first shot? Who fired the bang? F you. So fuck you. Bang. You. Bang, 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 bang. Because that individual may have actually been the one who shot Mr. Rosenbaum, the first individual who was shot. So that individual might not have been shot by Kyle at all. At all. Kyle may have been returning fire against that individual. We still are finding out information. So, the attorneys are on that. They're going to be breaking down every piece of information. The firearm he had was totally legal. It did not cross state lines. He borrowed it from a friend in a totally legal fashion. He was of a legal age. He was literally, in my opinion, and I think we're going to find out, lured into that location in order to be harmed. So, we're going to find a lot of things going forward. The left is becoming very violent, very dangerous, and they have, of course, engaged in retaliatory action. As we know, our good patriot Jay was shot, killed in Portland, a member of the Patriot Prayer Group, one of our many patriots, street patriots who flag wave and protest and counter protest, not doing anything, not engaging in any conflict, on the side of the road, going home, identified as a Trump supporter, and executed because he was a Trump supporter. So it's now officially dangerous, you guys. It's now officially dangerous. Guess what? I told you I would tell you if it was a war. It's a war. We're at that. We are obviously going to need to be concerned about all kinds of things, including chemical actions. And fentanyl is certainly a kind of drug, a kind of chemical that can be procured on the black market, is available, can be found, and can be easily weaponized. Easily weaponized. Very dangerous. And weaponized in such a way that weaponized in such a way that is harmful to everyone, not just the individuals that are targeted, but certainly other individuals. And certainly this is something, remember when we had the anthrax scares, people were so afraid of people being mailed anthrax. Well, fentanyl is just as dangerous as that. So certainly an envelope of fentanyl dust could be just as dangerous as anthrax or other weapons sent through the mail. So we need to be careful. We certainly need to continue to push back on this scourge and protect ourselves. Now I want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing going on with the liberals on the left and their ridiculous protests, their ridiculous shenanigans. They continue. Now here in DC, here's what I found funny. Despite the fact that these folks want us to believe that President Trump is responsible for all these COVID deaths, and despite the fact that the number of COVID deaths that were actually caused only by COVID is a tiny, tiny fraction of the overall COVID deaths, 91% are of individuals of significant age. 94% of the cases were cases where 2 or 3 more comorbidities, so other diseases, were present. And only 6% of the deaths were solely COVID deaths. So the CDC totally, and those, what I find ridiculous is some of those comorbidities are you were in a car wreck. Unfortunately, that's how bad the reporting of deaths were, because we were handing out money to hospitals for any death that was labeled a COVID, and certainly medical facilities took advantage and an opportunity to take advantage of those resources and padded those numbers, gladly padded those numbers for the government. They were happy to do that. But certainly what we're seeing is the numbers were padded. The deadliness of the disease was a fraction of what we were told. So here's the left. They want to continue to be like, oh, Trump killed all these people, which we know Trump didn't kill any of those people. Okay. Many of those people didn't even die from COVID. They died from something else. The numbers were literally padded. Okay. Literally padded after the fact. People would die and then they test them after the fact. Oh, you had COVID. Okay, really? Because they were just in a car wreck. This is over and over. Hundreds and thousands of times we saw that. So now we're seeing actually most of those deaths had to do with individuals who are already at extremely high risk, which we knew from the very beginning. Individuals are with pre-existing particular dangerous conditions. Heart disease, big one. Heart disease, big. Lung disease, big. Any upper respiratory disease, big. Diabetes, okay? Anything that can affect your heart rate, your blood pressure, etc. Obesity, thank you, Bob. Literally, a lot of things can affect. Now, here's the thing. When you add a lot of those comorbidities up, when you add age and you add a nursing home environment, you had people who are already on the ropes with this is a very typical response to a upper respiratory infection. The flu kills lots of people every year. Now, does the flu kill you? You're a totally healthy person and you get the flu and you die? A few. But does the flu more Does it more likely the flu cause people who have pre-existing problems, etc., to develop pneumonia and other conditions that lead to their death? Yes. Like the flu. Okay. Which is why, it's not just any comorbidity. They call them comorbidity. It's not just any disease. Look, if you have diabetes, okay, maybe you're diabetic, but you have your diabetes under control. Right? If you're the kind of person who gets a cold, you get the sniffles, you drink some juice, you sleep a few days, you feel better, but you still have the diabetes, you're fine. You're fine. Okay. COVID's it's not the death sentence. You're not need to freak out. Okay. Because even with that additional condition, you're pretty healthy. Just like there's a lot of fat people out there. Okay. They're sturdy as heck. They got some thick on their bones, but they get sick, they're exposed to germs, they get very healthy very quickly, they heal quickly. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about things that undermine your immune system. That's what's going to be the problem. That's what's going to be the issue. And this is the problem we said from the beginning. Now, what the CDC tried to make us believe, what the World Health Organization tried to make us believe, is that, hello, dear Jane, what these organizations tried to make us believe was that this disease can just kill anybody at any time. Everybody can get it. Everybody can die. Everybody's going to get it and die. The kids can get it and die. The kids can get it. Your grandma can die. Your friends can die. Everybody can die. Don't go outside because you could die. And we're like, don't go outside. How are we going to buy groceries? And they're like, okay, we'll go buy groceries. We're like, all right, buy groceries? But are we going to die? No. Just only if it's essential. Only if and so begin the cycle of loss. You can go outside if it's essential, but you cannot go outside if it's not essential. These are they give you a list of things that were essential to do. Okay, if you went outside at night, at night. Oh, coronavirus hated nighttime. It would get you immediately at night. Right? Right away at night. But after 8 p.m. But before 8 p.m., no problem at all. No problem. You just go outside. It's okay. Go do your essential things. But if you go to a bar, no. At a bar, coronavirus will kill you. At a bar, but you're eating a sandwich, totally okay. Totally okay. At a bar, eating a sandwich, totally okay. At a bar, just drinking, dead. This is the stuff they started to tell you. This is the ridiculous. And so then they begin ridiculous things like the mask mandates. As my good friend Jane says, take your damn masks off. We all need to start just saying no and saying, when they say, but it's the order, we say, but it's dumb. And keep fighting, you guys, keep fighting. We all keep fighting. So then they said, that's 4 months in, they said, masks, you guys, we got to put on masks. 4 months in, we're like, 4 months in, why are we putting on masks now? We're putting masks? Oh my God, why? Masks? Are you kidding me? We're like, yeah, you got to put on masks. Why? Well, because it's spread through droplets, you guys, droplets. Now, in that time, they've convinced us to actually go. This is what I find most fascinating and kind of disturbing with all of you, with everyone who let the shutdowns happen. Not my patriots, not the ones who've been screaming with me from day one, but the ones who were like, oh, we just got to trust the government to, shut down for 2 weeks. That's only 2 weeks. These people, they scare me. These people scare me. Here's the problem I've had. As we've learned more about the virus, so everything we got, all the shutdowns at the beginning were to flatten the curve. Where's my little, remember the flatten the curve? I think we have the curve. I think we kept the curve. Yeah, remember our little curve? We flatten the curve. We were supposed to flatten this big old curve, but we were like, we're here. We were actually down here, the whole time. Way below the curve the whole time. Never close to the curve. But so we wouldn't overwhelm the hospitals. Remember all that? And that was because it was a novel virus. We didn't know what would happen. But over time, we've been finding out more about the virus. And what we're finding out is the virus is less deadly than we thought. It has less, it is less likely to be transmitted than we thought. It is not spread by asymptomatic transmission, unlike the early stories. We're not spreading. People who are not sick are not spreading it to other people who are not sick. Not happening. So We're only spreading it if you have symptoms that produce, just like any other cold. How do you give somebody a cold? You cough, you sneeze, it gets on them, it gets on something they touch their mouth, it gets cold. Just like everything else. This is exactly how you spread coronavirus. Nothing new. It's not aerosolized, all of this madness. Just how we got the masks, all this ridiculousness. Now, if we breathe anywhere, okay, without a filter, we're killing grandmother. Even if the filter doesn't do any good, even if the device serves no purpose whatsoever, even if science itself will tell you the mask is not preventing you from transmitting the virus, it's not preventing you from getting the virus, it's not preventing you from spreading the virus to yourself. So, no, Joseph Simic, the curve is not flat here. This is the left. They're so dumb. This is why I don't ever use YouTube, because there's a bunch of idiots over there. The curve isn't flattened because nobody is carrying enough to stop the spread. Oh, the curve is flattened. It's below flattened, sweetheart. Let me just explain something to you. Let's do the chart. I think our little friend Joseph might need the chart. He might need to go through the whole chart. We've already done the chart, but maybe you didn't do your homework, so we'll show you the chart. Okay, so see this? See this big? This is going to be 2.2 million dead people. That's what was going to happen here. This is the prediction. This curve, oh my goodness, that big curve, so dangerous. And it's going to exceed the hospital capacity. Look, it's over the hospital capacity. It's over 2.2 million deaths. Guess how many deaths actually were? Guess how many? First off, if you count how many deaths were all COVID, it's like this. Okay, so deaths that weren't already being treated in hospitals is like this. Okay, this much. So we'll see, well below the curve. Well below the curve. Even if it was all the deaths, it's still like well below the curve. Say 10%. 10% of 2.2 million. We're not even there yet. We're not even at 10% of 2.2 million. Well below this number, the hospital capacity, well below the curve. So the reason we didn't flatten the curve, because the curve was flat. The curve was flat. All right. It's literally like trying to strap your mama's chest down. Okay. Because she's flat. Flat. Flat, flat, flat. Completely and utterly already flat is the problem. Yeah, I know. Exactly. Write something here. It'll trigger the libs. That's what we do. That is what we do. So, as we've learned more and learned that the virus is less dangerous, it's not spread asymptomatically, all of these things we've learned less, what are we getting? More and more rigid shutdowns and more, mask mandates now, all of this, and more and more violation of those exact mandates by the government officials. So, as you know, all of the government officials in D.C. are exempt from all of these mandates that the mayor has put in place. New York has swimming pools. We don't have any swimming pools here. We're not allowed to have swimming pools. I just mentioned that because it pisses me off personally. But at the same time, the mayor, she wants to have only 25 people in a room. She's got restaurants jacked down to 50% capacity. Nobody's making any money. It's very difficult to be a restaurant owner. We're losing businesses. We're losing economy. We're losing our tourist industry. We can't have events. We can't have conventions. These are a huge component of the DC economy. When we do have an event, like the president speaking at the White House, the mayor will not even secure a perimeter around their White House so that these individuals can get back to their vehicles in safety. So, you guys, here's the deal. We need to elect Donald J. Trump so bad it's not even funny. We need to reelect Donald Trump. We need to reelect Donald Trump. Why? Because it's the only way we're going to get the country back open. Literally, Joe Biden has stated that he will issue a mask mandate when he becomes president. So 5 months from now, the virus will have worked its cycle out. He's already telling you he wants to make you paranoid and fearful and living in fear 5 months from now. So It's not going to go away. If you don't elect Donald, here's the cure for coronavirus, re-electing Donald J. Trump. If you want the coronavirus to be around forever and these rules to be around forever, and for the rest of our days, we're going to be screaming for years the truth, and they're going to be calling us virus truthers. We're going to be screaming at them. And they're probably going to put us in prisons because we're sharing misinformation, because, they're just going to give more teeth to the left. We have to reelect Donald Trump. Obviously. But we need to give Donald Trump back the House. We need to give Donald Trump back the House. We need to take a larger margin in the Senate. These are the most important things. So, I know everyone's having a good time going out to rallies, going out to events. I don't want to discourage anybody from doing whatever they want to do. However they want to patriot, do it. Okay? But what I'm seeing in strategy from the left right now is a deliberate targeting of individuals, of patriots. And they're going to target events that patriots are out in public. What we really need to be doing is getting folks registered to vote, getting folks out to the polls, and making sure that we're ready to defend the vote and defend against voter fraud come election day. So if all you're hanging out with is other patriots who are already registered and already voting for Trump, what are we doing? What are we doing? Oh, new terms of service starting. Chris says, just got a notice from Facebook of new terms of service starting October 1st. I'm scared. I'm literally scared of the new terms of service. That frightens me. You never know. You never know what they're going to swing on us. So, but that's my point. We need to be getting the work done. So, and we don't need to be giving a target to the left. So while everyone is having a great time, while we're doing rallies, while we're doing all this stuff, I'm asking everybody to be very careful out there. Make sure that what you're doing is serving not just the purpose of socializing, but is winning the votes, winning hearts and minds. We're moving the needle somehow. That's what is needed for this election. And that's also what's going to keep us a lot safer across the board. Unfortunately, until we get Trump reelected, we are going to continue to see violence. The Democrat mayors and governors are going to continue to allow this kind of mob violence. And until the president has more flexibility, he will not be able to send in the National Guard as effectively to shut this down. So let's just keep praying for our country. Certainly, we want everyone to be safe. We need everyone to be safe out there. And on top of all of that, we need to make sure that we don't give the left any opportunities. So watch your six at all times. It's a different game out there right now, you guys. A very different game. So just be careful and stay safe and continue to represent the president and continue to stand up for what is right and continue to find folks who are willing to do that with us at the polls on November 3rd and protect this beautiful baby right here. All right, you guys, that is our show for tonight. I thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank Jim Rauh for being here from Families Against Fentanyl.org. Please go take a look at what they're doing. Sign the petition at familiesagainstfentanyl.org. It's one way, sign and share. It's one way we can contribute and participate and help move this needle forward, protecting all Americans from this deadly scourge, which we've talked about so many times, you guys. I'm really excited to be working, talking about an issue that's so important to me. So thank you for tuning in. Yes, and if you are donating to Kyle Rittenhouse's fund, this is the appropriate fund, fightback.law. Fightback.law. We will be back again tomorrow on the Exceptional Conservative Show.com, on the Exceptional Conservative Network, Life, Liberty, and Talk. And we'll be back here Wednesday. Be safe, you guys. Just be safe and be careful. It's a crazy world out there. And until next time, this is your girl, Suzzanne Monk. Jumping out.